Hey guys, so quick video about taking off the exhaust manifold for the Toyota MR2 Spyder. Not too many difficulties, I noticed. I would say pretty straightforward. The way that I started to take this off was I did end up taking off the heat shields of the exhaust manifold itself. I'll just quickly hop on over here. Just for easier access, I have a lowered MR2 Spyder, so it makes things harder to get at from underneath, even with a jack, kind of a pain in the ass. But essentially, you take off the two top bolts of the outer shield, and then there should be two underneath as well. When I was starting to take mine off, I completely forgot that there was two bolts underneath. I was prying it from the top, wasn't able to get it off. But I did end up getting it off. Was pretty simple after I figured that out. Second shield, kind of pointless on taking off the back shield. I thought, hey, well, maybe it'll make it a little bit easier. Not really. I took off the side bolts and so there's another two bolts on the sides. And then there's two on the back. Back ones are hard to get at, so kind of a bitch, but it does give you a little bit more play space if you are trying to take the three bottom bolts off for where the flex pipe are, or at least spray them with penetrating fluid to essentially loosen them up when you're cracking them open. So that made life a little bit easier. You will need a 12 mil, 14 mil, some extensions. I used 3/4 inch and quarter inch half inch and 3 1/4 inch ratchets, just to make things a little bit easier. For the bigger bolts on the bottom where the flex pipe are, I ended up using the half, just because it did need a little bit of force. I don't have a hoist. So I would say that you definitely want some good leverage and heavier duty ratchet, and then it's just 14 mil to take off the bolts. You do need a O2 sensor socket. I just picked this one up, was pretty cheap, 16 bucks. It is a 7/8, if I'm correct, socket. And obviously it's open just so you can slide it over the O2 sensors, make your life a lot simpler for taking these off, putting them on and such, or putting them back in and taking it off. Aftermarket gasket, I ended up buying a Toyota gasket. It seemed like a lot of people recommended it, so I'm just going to toss this one out, and then obviously the new exhaust manifold. So I'm just going to hop back over to the car. So this is actually my MR2 Spyder. Dark cherry pearl, I like it. So getting back to it, there is 5 bolts. They are 12 mil bolts, so fairly straightforward. I would say the hardest one to get at, usually, like for myself, I used a universal socket as well when I was taking the second bolt off. So you'll see the first 4 you can pretty much get with a wrench and a socket. Or sorry, these 4, 1, 2, 3, and then the outer one. This one right here, you will need something. I used a universal socket. I don't know what most people do, but I just found that easier. I stuck it underneath the exhaust manifold, then cracked it open from the side. I found that easier. I couldn't get it from the top, so that's just a heads up. And yeah, so getting back to it. The 3 bolts, I lubed up, so I know the exhaust manifold's already off, but I lubed up pretty good from the top side as well. So hopefully it seeped through to the bottom, so when I cracked it, it wasn't as hard. Still had to use some force. And then obviously once you're done cracking those off, it's not too hard to jig loose. Yeah, so essentially I used where are we here? My flathead screwdriver to pry at the exhaust manifold to pop that loose, and then I just pushed down on this piece of the flex pipe, just pushed down and then it came loose. So fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Yeah, let me know your thoughts and how anyone else has done it. I thought that was pretty straightforward. I know it's not really a full tutorial, but at least gives you a guy's idea of what I used. So getting back to it for tools, like I said, heavier duty, wrench, 1/2 inch with extension, universal socket extension, 12 mil, and 14 mil with 1/4 inch.